President, please be seated. The court is now in session. Today, the chamber continues to hear testimony of witness Bun Lang Choi and to begin hearing testimony of another witness, that is through TCW 1012 via a video link in relation to Phnom Krao Security Center. Ms. Ji Su Huang, please report the attendance of the parties and other individuals to today's proceedings. Grazie, Mr. President, for today's proceedings. All parties to this case are present. Mr. Nguyen Chi is present in the holding cell downstairs. He has waived his right to be present in the courtroom. The waiver has been delivered to the greffier. The witness who is to conclude his testimony today, that is Mr. Bun Lang Choi and Madame Suchita, his duty counsel, are present in the courtroom. The next witness, that is to TCW 1012, will be testifying from Odor Minchai province via a video link. The witness confirms that through his best knowledge, he has no relationship by blood or by law to any of the two accused, that is Nguyen Chi and Khieu Sampon, or any of the civil parties admitted in this case. The witness will take an oath before he testifies. Thank you. President, thank you. The Chamber now decides on the request by Nguyen Chi. The Chamber has received a waiver from Nguyen Chi, dated 29 March 2016, which states that due to his health, headache, back pain, he cannot sit or concentrate for long, and in order to effectively participate in future hearings, he requires to waive his rights to be present at the 29th March 2016 hearing. Having seen the medical report of Nguyen Chi by the duty doctor for the accused at the ECCC, dated 29 March 2016, which notes that today Nguyen Chi has a chronic back pain and cannot sit for long, and recommends that the chamber shall grant him his request so that he can follow the proceedings remotely from the holding cell downstairs. Based on the above information and pursuant to Rule 81.5 of the ECCC internal rules, the chamber grants Nguyen Chi his request to follow the proceedings remotely from a holding cell downstairs via an audio-visual means. The chamber instructs the AV unit personnel to link the proceedings to the room downstairs so that Nguyen Chi can follow. That applies for the whole day. The chamber now hands the floor to the defense team for Nguyen Chi to continue putting further questions to the witness. You may proceed, counsel.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning, Your Honors, Counsel. Good morning, Mr. Witness. I have a few additional questions that I would like to put to you this morning. Yesterday, you gave evidence implying that you were not the deputy chief of the district, that as a matter of fact you were not member of the district committee at all, but that you were deputy chief of the district office. What exactly were your tasks as the deputy chief of the district office? What were you doing on a day-to-day basis?
Could you just a second, counsel, just a second. Should we clarify that now?
President, we would like to note on the translation of document E35177 at Khmer 001978860. The witness states in the record that I was in Koh Nhai district. Before that, I was the deputy chief of Kaisama district office, and my uncle Kaisama was the district chief, and I was his bodyguard between 71 to 75. And I was the deputy chief of the office from 75 to 77. However, in the English translation, it is rather different from the original Khmer text. In English, it's on 00274099. So it is clear in the original Khmer text that he was the deputy chief of the district's office.
Thank you, Mr. President. What were your tasks, Mr. Witness, as the deputy chief of the district office? What did you do on a day-to-day basis?
I'd like to respond to that question regarding the works at the office, including taking the staff to work in the rice fields. However, we were assigned different tasks. Sometimes the chief of the office led the people to build a dam, while I was assigned to lead the people to work in the rice fields. However, sometimes we rotated ourselves. That means sometimes I led people to work at the dam, while he led people to work in the rice field.
Did the district office and you as its deputy chief have any other tasks? If yes, what were they?
We did not have other tasks. Our task was assigned was dependent on the assignment from the district secretary. If we were assigned to perform a particular task, that what we would do. And usually it would deal with the agricultural production.
Was the district office, or rather you personally, were ever involved, or were you ever involved in the arrest of anyone?
We did not have such authority.
Did you see ever any communication passing through the district office regarding the arrest of anyone?
Yes, there were some. Namely, in 1974, when I was still his messenger, the Kati province informed the district office about the pursuit and arrest of those who were called Khmer Saw.
How about after 17 April 75? Did you ever see any communication whatsoever in relation to arrests of anyone within your district?
There were not such incidents after 1975, and that continued until we were arrested.
Did you ever see, in your capacity as deputy chief of the district office, communication in relation to statements or confessions of prisoners?
No, I was not aware of that. I never interrogate anyone, nor did I have such authority to do so.
Were you or was the district office in any manner whatsoever involved in the execution of anyone?
During the time that I was with the district, nothing happened in such a way.
So is it fair to say that you yourself nor the district office was ever involved in the ordering or planning of any execution?
Yes, that is correct. Prior to February 77, the situation was normal and there was no action of killing. And only after a group of us, that is about 80 people, were arrested, and after that, killings started.
While being a deputy chief of the district office, did you ever see any military communication, communication from Division 920 to the General Staff and back?
Yes, there was one or two instances of such communication, but nothing happened after that.
And what was it that you saw or that you remember seeing, those one or two instances in terms of military communication? What was it?
When the division of Tasson and Tasoit had a brigade in the Kaesama district, there were Hun, Taso, and Tapo who were in that division, and they cooperated with Tahom and Talang in doing their work. And they actually received their work assignment from the sector. Later on, I frequently saw Tapo, who was the deputy commander. He came to communicate with the office about the logistics for the troops in that brigade. And I did not participate in any meeting that they held with the district committee due to my lower rank.
Yesterday, I read to you some excerpts from telegrams containing military communications about Vietnamese incursions in DK territory. Do you remember ever seeing such telegrams at the time in your capacity as deputy of the district office?
I never heard anything about Telegram.
Have you ever heard of something called Group 7 or the Sevens or 7 Group? Any referral to the word 7 in relation to enemy activity?
No, I did not.
Yesterday you gave testimony to the chamber about the alleged fate of former Lon Nol military. Before I ask you some more details about that, if you were not involved at all in arrests, interrogations, reading confessions or statements, not having seen any executions or even ordered, how are you in a position to say what the fate was in relation to certain ranks within the former Lon Nol army? What was your knowledge at the time that makes you say that you knew what policy there was?
I was involved in that task since the previous time. In addition, those soldiers used to come by my house. There were those low-level soldiers and there were ranking officers, including a colonel, and they were killed in 1973 by the Pol Pot group, and I knew some of them very well. There was a meeting in Cognate, and actually they fired a Doucet guns from the vehicle to threaten the people, and about 30 of those were arrested and killed, and this event was known to everyone, including children.
I understand what you're saying, but there was a war going on up until 75, so combatants on both sides were killing each other. My question is, after 17 April 75, you seem to have no knowledge whatsoever about arrests, interrogations, executions, etc. Is your answer only limited to pre-75, or are you also able to say something about what happened after 1975 with ranking former Lon Nol military?
Witness, please hold on, and Deputy Co-Prosecutor, you have the floor.
Yes, just an observation. I think counsel is, again, mischaracterizing the evidence. This witness has indicated that this province was liberated in 1970. So the war there was over. This witness wasn't talking about soldiers or officials who were killed in combat. So counsel shouldn't be suggesting that to the witness.
I'm not sure what prosecution means. There was still fierce fighting going on. As a matter of fact, this witness talks about massive US bombing in Mondulkiri and Ratanakiri. It might be liberated, but that doesn't mean that there wasn't any fighting going on.
Why instead of testifying not simply ask your last question? Did what you said also pertain to 1977?
Fine. Mr. Witness, what you were saying about the fate of ranking military, did that apply only to pre-75 or also to post-75? And if it applies to post-75, please tell me how you know that.
It happened before 1975.
Yesterday, at around 4 minutes past 10, you were talking about the alleged fate of Lon Nol military, and at one point in time, in the same answer, you switched into talking about purges and cadres. Let me read to you exactly what you said, so that we are clear on this. At 10:04, you say, and the arrests and killing took place only for cadres in 75, including those military commanders at various positions. In this way, the purge was conducted through the lines or chains of command. Now that's the last part of your answer in relation to what the alleged fate was of former Lon Nol ranking military. You do, it seems, the same thing in your DC Camp statement, E3/5636, English ERN 00711-207, Khmer 000-42471, and French 007272128. In this answer, you talk about Tasin, Taya, Tasai, Hunim, Tapiu, Tasau, and then you say, compared to the present, the soldiers whose rank started from major lieutenant or lieutenant were all murdered. Tasin and Tasai were taken and killed in Phnom Penh for sure. Tasin was the commander of Division 920. It's a bit complicated question, but are you sometimes referring to similar ranks of members of the Revolutionary Army, trying to explain that also senior cadres from the divisions 920 and 810 were arrested?
Regarding Division 920, Tassin was the top commander of that division, and Soy was his deputy. They were the two that I knew, and I saw them for one time only when they came to meet with the home, the sector committee. At that time, I was cooking food for their meeting at the Old Buon Le Dam construction work site. They had a few messengers and some people to help them cook the food, and I was involved in the cooking of the food. And I saw Tassin and Soy who came from Phnom Penh to meet with the home regarding work cooperation, and that was the only occasion that I saw them. And later on, in early 77 or later 76, I heard that they were arrested during a wave of a purge, including Kun, So, Per, and several others. So those people in Division 920, to my knowledge, many of senior people in that division died, though I cannot tell you the exact figure. At Old Buon Dam work site, every day 10 or 20 of those soldiers from the division were taken away, and that is the fact. However, I cannot tell you exactly how the killing amongst themselves took place, or how many were killed.
I understand, but it seems that in this DC Camp statement you are trying to make a comparison in terms of ranks, what the ranks were of Tassin and Tasai, and then you compared them to major, lieutenant, or lieutenant. Now yesterday I believe you were talking about purges of cadres. Is that what you were trying to do, make a comparison of the 920 and 810 division members in terms of ranks?
Answer. I know that in Mundulgiri at the time there were no more former Lunol soldiers. There were people, villagers, but they did not have any issue. And during that period, the killing did happen in relation to Khmer Rouge cadres. Khmer Rouge killed Khmer Rouge themselves. Purge did happen. If you want to ask me about former Lunol soldiers, whether or not they were killed, I don't think that they were killed because there were no more former Lunol soldiers at the time. But during the period, Khmer Rouge soldiers killed themselves, killed each other rather.
Thank you, Mr. Witness. My very last subject. That is something also in relation to events pre-1975. That is about the bombing of Mondulkiri and Ratanakiri by the United States. Let me read to you an excerpt from your DC Chem statement, and then I will ask you for some clarification. E3/5636, English ERN 0071121, Khmer 00042, excuse me, 48990, and French 007274146. Question: were soldiers the targets for bombardments, or and then the question is not finished, and you say the following: they were the targets for bombardments, however villagers also suffered. Sometimes bombardment was spotted on the village. In Kati village, B-52s were dropped on the middle of the village, and several families were killed. All holes were dug by B-52s, and the size was double that of a house. In short, millions of bombs were bombarded along the border. Each B-52 consisted of 200 bombs. Each time 2 or 3 or 4 bombs of B-52s were dropped. End of quote. Do you remember saying that to the investigator of DC Cam?
But
answer. In relation to the US bombing, I can recall that the US bombing started from 1969 up to 1973. In that period, there were B-52 bombing, rockets, shellings, napalm, that is to say, and bombing. And I would like to tell the court that the location which were bombed were at Koh Nhek and PMG Miet, O Liêu, O Tang, O Plai, and the bombing was dropped up to Pachanda, O Trai, O Tam, Phnom Dam Ria, up, and then the Khao Sema and Dadam were also bombed. The purchase in 1970 did not happen only close to the location near the border. It happened in Mondulkiri, Steng Trang, and Karachi. So US bombing occurred in every location. Tien village was completely destroyed by the aerial bombing. The US bombing did not target the Viet Cong soldiers, but the bombing dropped on the villagers' houses. That village, as I said, was completely destroyed, and no one went back to reside in that village which was destroyed, and as of now, no one is living in that village. And in relation to the war between Vietnam soldiers and former Lon Nol soldier happened on Dak Krom Mountain, but not many people killed at the time. Viet Cong soldiers and Khmer soldiers were killed during the war. U.S. bombing, when the bomb was dropped, it would cause troubles to everyone without any discrimination.
My last question on this, a little further down in that DC Cam interview, the question is asked, did the bombardments kill civilians or soldiers? And then you answer, and I quote, only civilians were killed. None of the soldiers were killed, end of quote. Is that what you said to DC Cam, that only civilians were killed by the US bombing?
Answer. Khmer Rouge soldiers were not wounded by the US bombing, but Vietnamese soldiers, most of them were killed by the aerial bombing. Rarely, Khmer Rouge soldiers were rarely killed or wounded by that aerial bombing.
And then my very last question. In your WRIs, you gave statistics as to how many people lived in Mondulkiri and Ratanakiri. You were asked a question about that yesterday as well. Are you in a position to tell how many civilians in Ratanakiri or Mondulkiri were killed by the bombs thrown out by the US military?
But
Answer. That was the report of Khmer Rouge. In Ratanakiri, 3,000 were killed, and in Mondulkiri, only 600 were killed. That was the announcement and report at the time.
Thank you, Mr. Witness. Thank you, Mr. President.
President, thank you. And now the floor is given to the defense team for Mr. Kyu Sampon to put questions to this witness. You have the floor now.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, witness. My name is Anta Gise. I am International Co-Counsel for Mr. Kyu Sampan, and it is in this capacity that I will put a few follow-up questions to you. My first series of questions has to do with your role as a messenger. That is the role you played before 1975. I have understood that you were a messenger at a point in time. My question is as follows. Did you start working as a messenger before 1975?
Answer. Frankly speaking, I was his messenger in 1973, actually from 1973 up to 1975. I was not a messenger before 1973, and later on, after 1975, I was appointed to be the deputy chief.
Dans ma réponse en français,
I heard in interpretation that I was his messenger from 1973 to 1975. Who were you referring to when you said his?
Answer. I was Kasi's messenger.
vous êtes né dans le Mondulkiri.
You were born in Mondulkiri. Is it correct to say that you had always lived in Mondulkiri?
Answer. That is true.
Est-ce que dans le cadre du choix d'un messager, la
As part of the role of a messenger, did knowing the forest, knowing the forest something that was important when the Khmer Rouge were operating on the ground?
Answer. On this particular issue, he was satisfied with my performance, and he requested the upper echelon to have me as his messenger. It was not an easy job. My father had trouble with the Khmer Rouge, and as a result, he was killed. So it was not easy to have me as a messenger. He was my uncle, and it was a difficult task that he went to the upper echelon to ask me to be his messenger. And I was familiar with all the geographical location in Mondulkiri, so that was his desire to have me as his messenger.
Je vais vous demander, monsieur le témoin, de
Witness, may I request you to make an effort to carefully listen to the questions I put to you? I'm trying to be as clear and as concise as possible. Did I properly understand from your answer that knowing the situation on the ground, was one of the criteria for the choice of a messenger?
Answer, that is not correct. He selected me to be a messenger because I was related to him.
Et est-ce que vous connaissiez bien la région?
Did you know the Mondulkiri region very well? To refresh your memory, in your interview with DCCAM document E3/5636, and the ERN in French is 00727-140, ERN in English is 00711-225, and ERN in Khmer 0042483. And you explain that you traveled a lot, and this is what you stated. At the time, I was someone who was strong and courageous. I was very strong when it came to do with trips in the forest. I knew the road to Vietnam very well. That is what people were saying because I went back and forth. So I knew all the places by heart. And of course, that was free translation. My question, to be more specific, is as follows. Is it correct to say that you knew the region very well and that you could find your way very well in the forest? And is it correct to say that you knew all the places by heart?
Answer, that is true. I know very well all location in that province.
Et vous connaissiez bien également
Did you also know Konik in that province? Cognac in that province very well?
Answer, Cognac district was my birth district.
un ruisseau.
Very well. Yesterday, the co-prosecutor put a question to you regarding a brook. The document is E3/67670 little 1, and the ERN is 01013545, and the ERN in English is 011947993, and the ERN in Khmer is 0058604. And this is the document that the co-prosecutor showed you yesterday when you said that you did not know of a brook or a stream known as Olpo. For the interpreters who don't have the document before them, in French it is written as follows: AURLPEOU, Olpo. So, you who knew Cognac district very well stated that you did not know that stream. Do you know whether that stream is located somewhere else in another district and in another province?
Answer, I have a doubt. There is no Olapo stream in Mondulkiri, not to mention in Cognac district. There is no such name or stream in Mondulkiri.
Toujours à propos.
Still, with regard to Mondulkiri, we know that there were many different ethnic minorities in that province. So my first question to you is as follows. Do you speak any other language apart from Khmer?
Answer, I know Phnom, Lao, and Charai languages. And I know how to speak other languages, but not very well.
Et est-ce que pendant la période du Kampuchea démocratique,
And during the democratic Kampuchea period, did you speak those different languages?
Answer. During Khmer Rouge time, I could speak any other languages as I wanted. No such ban on language use.
est-ce que vous vous souvenez, parmi les cadres khmer,
Among the Khmer Rouge cadres during the democratic Kampuchea regime, do you remember whether there were cadres from the different ethnic minorities? And if you do know any, can you give us their names and their ethnic origins, if you do recall that?
Answer. In the entire province, there were different ethnicities. And there were Lao, Chien, Tumpuan, Phnom, and Charai, and some Charai.
Et ma question est de savoir est-ce que vous
And my questions is whether you do recall if there were cadres from the different ethnic groups, and if yes, who were they?
បាទ
Hom, or alias Hom and Lang. The father was Lao and mother was Charai. Lang, the mother was Tumpuan, and Kasi was ethnically Phnom. Svai Charai, Svai was ethnically Charai. Lane was ethnically Charai as well, and Lang was mixed race of Charai and Phnom. So I cannot describe all the detail in relation to their family background.
Et Bouli,
How about Buli? Do you know the ethnicity of that person? The ethnic origins of that person?
ប៊ូលី
He was in PM Jimian village, commune and district, Mandalkiri province. Ethnically, he was Lao.
un autre point que je voudrais aborder.
Another point I would like us to talk about is the following. At a point in time, you referred to Tasarun. Can you tell us about him? What was his position, his specific position, and what authority did he exercise?
បាទ
Answer. At first, Tasarun was the secretary of Pajana district. And perhaps from 1973 up to 75, he was promoted to be member of Mandalkiri committee. And after the decease or the killing each other of Lang and Kampun, he came to replace Lang. At that time, there were killings, many killings. And perhaps it was after 1 or 2 months that he was promoted to replace Lang. And he was in that position less than a year. Then the liberation of 7 January happened.
Une précision pour
I would like you to clarify something, perhaps in French and English. You said that he was district secretary for a start. Can you give us the name of that district?
He was secretary of Pachana district.
À quel moment est-il venu remplacer Leng?
At what time did he come to replace Leng? Can you recall the date?
It was in late 1977 probably, or early 1978.
Est-il exact de dire que
Is it correct to say that on that date you were working on the Roya work site?
បាទខ្ញុំ
Answer: yes, I was at Royo.
Est-ce que vous avez eu des interactions
Did you have any direct interactions with Tasarun?
Answer: through my observation, when I fell ill, I requested to be hospitalized. Tasaloy went to pick me up. He had a letter with him at the time. I was asked to fill in my name and other information, and the seal or the stamp was sealed, and the name was put on that letter. So at the work site, I had to focus on my work at the field. I could not walk to any other places freely, because there was a request from the office chief to send me to a hospital. That's why I was allowed to go back to the hospital. But the content of the letter was to set me free. So I thought that I was allowed to be freed. But at the time the letter was handed over to me, and I was asked to fill in my name. That letter was typewritten, and the seal has something to do with Sarun. So I realized at the time that he had become a secretary of a district already, and that letter was, the purpose of that letter was to ask permission so that I could be sent to the hospital.
In your statement E3/8749 at French ERN 007276661, English 0071550, and at Khmer ERN 0071194. This is what you say regarding Tasarun. After Tasarun followed Taleng, there were many more arrested under Taleng's authority because they sought revenge from each other by arresting the cadres who were close to the former sector secretary. So as a secretary of the sector, Tasarun could decide on whom to arrest. End of quote, free translation. So my question is, what are your sources for you to state that Tasarun could decide on the arrests? And what do you mean by they sought revenge from each other?
Answer. I would like to clarify this point for the court. After Ta Kampoon had killed Ta Lang, at the time Ta Jun was the younger in-law of brother-in-law of Lang, and he went around to inform everyone in work sites and cooperatives. And later it was said that he replaced his elder brother-in-law. A few days later, he was arrested. During the fighting between Kampoon and Hom, the network of the Hom was on sea and another individual. And at the time, I did not know whether that the members of Hom was assigned by the upper echelon to replace or to get other tasks to perform. After that fighting, the situation was chaotic. Kampoon network was arrested. There were many cadres from the network of Kampoon, Ta Chuan, Ta Kampo, Ta Van Kam, Ta Ara, Boli, Bolai. These individuals were in the network of Kampoon, so many of them had been arrested, hundreds of them, I could say. But some of them survived the arrest. Perhaps 80 of individuals in Kampoon's network disappeared. Ta Sarat, Ta Kon, Kang were also arrested, but later on they were freed. In the previous interview, Toja was mentioned by me in that document, and he was also killed. All of them were cadres. Namely, they were chiefs of officers, or they were parts of battalion, regiment. And as for Ra, he was the deputy secretary of a district. Ra Bolai, who was the chief of a hospital in the sector, were also arrested. Boli was also in charge of the sector hospital. Later on, he was assigned to be in charge of Kohnye District Hospital. So, allow me to tell the court that the revenge between the two groups of individuals happened. Revenge did happen. Kampoon fought or smashed the horn because his child was killed by the horn. Kam, his name was Kam. Kasi was first arrested. Yun was the chief of the office of Kampoon. Yun was introduced into the party by Kasi. So usually there was inductor introduce individual into the party, and as I said, usually if the network members of one network were arrested, all of them could not be freed rather. And at the time, George was elected to handle some tasks.
Monsieur le témoin.
Witness, please. I apologize, but I must interrupt you. But your answers are very lengthy, and it's a bit hard to follow. So please, once again, answer my questions as briefly and as specifically as possible. You provided us with a very large volume of information, so I'm going to try to organize this. You spoke about the arrest of 80 people. And when these 80 people were arrested, where were you? And what function did you have? Were you already at Roya, or were you still in your previous position?
បាទ
I was still at Royo. They actually came to arrest us at Royo because of the Kampun's network. Chanton's families and relatives were also arrested, including the children. So, for people at Bun Krams, they were also arrested.
Please, I'm sorry. Once again, I don't have much time, so please answer my question specifically. My original question was, were you still at Roya? You answered, so I don't need more information. Then I will put extra questions to you, but I would like us to move step by step so that everything is clear for all of the parties. So you were at the Roya worksite when these arrests took place. Did you know who decided these arrests? And if that is the case, who was this person? So first, you know who, and who was this person? Give me a name, and then I will put extra questions to you after that.
The arrest happened after Hom and Kampund, since senior people had been arrested. And it was Sarun and Sophie who were in a higher position. However, Sophie at the time had not yet been arrested. So I did not know who actually made that decision, whether Tasarun or somebody else. From what I heard, there was a meetings among the committee because such a decision could not be made by an individual. It means it is a combined decision of all members of the committee. And all you can pinpoint to the most senior person within the committee. President, Mr. Witness, you are reminded once again to respond precisely to the point raised in the question as advised by counsel. And please don't provide any hypothetical response. You should only say what you knew, and if you don't know, please state so. That is also a kind of response, rather than to make a predictive or lengthy response. And counsel, you may continue.
Before the break, Mr. President, I would like to have a last question of clarification regarding this point. You spoke about Tasarun and about Sophia, but you also confirmed that back then you were at Roya. So may we say that you do not know exactly who took that decision, and it is that, and you therefore made your conclusions based on rumors.
Yes, that is correct.
Mr. President, if you wish to take the break now, we may do so.
Thank you, counsel. It is now convenient for our short break. We take a break now and resume at 10:30. Court officer, please assist the witness during the break time. and invite him as well as his duty counsel back into the courtroom at 10:30. The court is now in recess.
សូមអញ្ជើញក្រោកឈរ